Hello and welcome to the Damascus Encounter. The journey through life many times takes its twists and turns on us. Sometimes we plan traveling west and we end up headed south. We have many dreams and visions as we grow up, but somehow only God determines and knows exactly how our journeys would end. On Damascus Encounter today, we have yet another interesting personality, someone who encountered Jesus and will be sharing his story with us. I have with me on the program today, Collins Onuoha. Collins, you are welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Now, can you, by way of introduction, share very briefly who Collins Onuoha is with our viewers?
I am Onuoha Collins. I'm the first and the only son of a family of two. The next person to me is a junior sister who is married right now. We're from Imo State. I grew up in Aba, up to primary school before I left for minor seminary, what is called juniorate, Holy Ghost juniorate in Ihiala, just a little bit at the outskirts of Onitsha.
That's all in the eastern part of Nigeria?
Yeah, in the eastern part of Nigeria, yes. Okay. That's where I had my secondary education.
Okay.
And after that, I went ahead to join another group, religious group, Claretians Fathers, Reverend Fathers.
Okay.
Because that secondary school experience was a junior seminary where you have a preliminary training, exposure about priesthood. So after that, I got interested about priesthood, and I went ahead to join a group called Claretian Missionaries. They are headquartered at Nekede, Owerri. I was there. I studied philosophy, and after that, I went to a place called Otonkon in Benue State, where I had what is called spiritual training. Spiritual is a one-year spiritual, a kind of desert experience, where you are alone, cut off from your family. You are not involved with the environment for a whole year.
All still within the Roman Catholic Church?
Yeah, within the Roman Catholic Church.
Okay.
Yeah, but this one was within a congregation. Within the Catholic Church, there are so many groups. Okay. You have Reverend Sisters, you have Reverend Fathers, you have all kinds of different groups that were set up by different individuals depending on their inspiration. So at that time was with the Claretian Fathers.
Okay.
But the place I did my secondary school was owned by another group called the Holy Ghost Fathers.
Okay.
The Spiritans.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you set out early on in life wanting to be a Roman Catholic priest.
Yes.
And now you are a Seventh-day Adventist.
Yes.
So tell us what happened.
Yeah, just like you said earlier in your introductory, was a nice one about the twists and turns of life. I guess my life is full of that kind of illustration. At the time I left the seminary, at the point I left, stayed a little bit in Aba, then moved to Makurdi. I was heading the branch office of one of my brothers who was involved in poultry business, Jovac Limited. His headquarters was Owerri. So it was from Benue State that another relation invited me over to Lagos. And when I came to Lagos, I stayed with him. It was one day I was walking along the road where I stayed, and I saw a group of people preaching with the mic, speaking. I remember one voice sounding very hard in the air about the Bible, emphasizing Bible teaching, Bible faith, and all of that. Initially, I just took note of it. I didn't commit at that first time. Second time, I started noticing some specific issues he was talking about, even while passing.
So you went back, you were just passing by?
I was just passing. I wasn't invited.
Even the second time?
Yeah, even the second time. I was not invited. I just noticed that they were there, and I also took note of the content of what the speaker was saying.
Talking about.
And I remember one night I was passing with someone, and I said, did you take note of what this person is talking about? And it was unlike me. I don't usually, from my background, from my background, I don't usually get carried away by what people are saying. From my background, I had the capacity to analyze the content of what somebody is saying. But that one made a very strong and powerful impression on me. And I said to the person I was working with, did you notice what this person is saying? It sounds to me like the truth. That was the statement I made. And the next time, the third time I was passing, an invitation came. And I felt, after I've appreciated what was being said, and now there is an invitation to sit down and listen, who am I to say no? And I quickly obliged and sat down. And that's the beginning of the story.
Okay, but even that third time, was it that you were also just passing by, or
you
deliberately went out wanting to?
I was passing by because the place was very close to where I lived.
Okay.
Yeah. So and mostly was in the evening. The program was in the evening.
Okay.
So maybe when I'm returning from where I went, I will always see them within that period. No, it's a scheduled program.
Yeah.
So and until the program ends, every evening they are there. They were there. Yes.
So you had the invitation. You decided to sit
I decided
down.
to honor that invitation because I had already gotten impression that what was being said was nice.
Okay.
So who am I to say no at this point? So I said, well, let me get a pinch of it. Let me listen more, and maybe I could benefit.
Okay. So at what point, what exactly caught you that made you decide you wanted to get baptized?
Yeah, it was the Sabbath message.
Okay.
It was the Sabbath message. I know there were other things that the speaker talked about,
okay.
But the Sabbath message was the hook.
Was the catch?
Yeah, was the captivator. Okay. Because I heard something I never heard before. I heard something that no one has ever spoken to me about.
Yes.
I've not even come in contact with any literature at that point that exposed me to what I heard.
Tell me about that.
So naturally, I wanted to know more. Yeah, it was about the seventh day Sabbath, the Sabbath day. That the Sabbath day was Saturday. And I wanted to find out more. Naturally, from my background, I'm very inquisitive. I read a lot.
Okay. So
somebody, saying something about religion, about Christianity that I'm not familiar with, obviously, I was interested to find out more and to ask questions about it, and I did.
Okay, so in asking questions, you now started learning more?
Yes, I started asking questions. I started asking the presenter, the speaker, a lot of questions. As a matter of fact, at a point, he had to plead with me to shelve my questions because as I come closer, that I will get to know more, that there are books I could be given that will help me. But he answered enough. He gave me enough response, enough reasons for the things he said that made me, that kept me longing, that kept me, I kept desiring to dig deeper.
Okay.
Yeah, each question he answered, and that led me to another question, and that desire was building to, and the more he answered, the more I discovered I needed to know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you remember any of those specific questions that you asked?
Yes,
or maybe specific answers he gave that really intrigued and...
Yes, I wanted a proof for the Sabbath, the worship day being Saturday. I wanted a proof for that, and he was able to prove that from the scriptures. From my background, the Adventists were called the people of the book. So even before I met the Adventists, I was someone of the book. I believe in reading. I believe in getting facts from recorded documents. So when he was making reference to the Bible, getting his support for the seventh day being the Sabbath, when he referred to some key texts in Genesis and Exodus, it made quite a lot of impression, on me.
So as your mind, at this point, so is it safe for me to say your mind started moving or gravitating towards this Sabbath thing? I need to get involved with it. And so how did you look at or weigh that? How did you measure it with your background, the home front? That is, if I become one, how will it be looked at?
Oh, sure, it was tough.
Folks at home?
Yeah, it was tough. Looking at my background and being I was already exposed to philosophy, and that's a very strong background. If you are being trained to be a priest, you are well equipped, to confront issues. That will come from anybody, because intellectually you've been exposed to the best brain that has ever lived on this planet. So nobody can just come around and throw anything at you. So it was challenging, because I've been trained, I've been given what was considered one of the best training any human being can ever get in his life.
Ground you.
Yeah,
where
sure.
You were.
I was grounded. Yeah. So for my parents, for my family, it was tough.
Okay.
Where is this guy going? Why is he living this background?
Exactly.
That means a lot. The value of being a clergy in that background, and you want to go for. Many of them don't even know anything about the Adventists. They have not heard. So it was tough even mentioning the name to them. But all the same, I had to go ahead. I experienced that push. There was that inner push.
That urge.
Yes, because of the background to respect truth. When we studied people like Socrates, who died for the truth. So hearing that preacher talking about the truth, making a strong case that this is wrong, this is right. Because of that background, I was attracted to the truth.
Okay.
Because we've been exposed to those who love truth. That's the training. All right. So I didn't need to look at what my parents would say. I didn't need to consider how people around me, will feel. I had relations in Lagos. All of us came out to make a difference, make money, and all of that. So, but at the time I was making the decision, it was tough on their side, because they couldn't understand it. I was seen at that time as a fool, or someone who was not serious.
Like throwing your future away.
Yeah, throwing my future away. But I was determined, and I had to move ahead. Even money to progress, I didn't have it. I had to struggle to move ahead.
Very briefly, before we go on break, you tell me how you felt when you got into the water of baptism.
Wow, it was wonderful.
Okay.
I recently shared the experience with someone around recently. I can't forget it. I will never forget the experience I had the day I was baptized. It was so powerful. It was so real. Entering that water.
So how exactly did it?
I felt a confirmation from heaven. I felt that heaven was involved. They were looking down. Jesus, God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit, that they were looking down inside that water. Because as I came out, the way I felt, I've never felt differently since that day. There is an experience you have. You say, I wish I knew. Maybe I shouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done. But I've never had any regret. Yeah, close to 20 years now, 1995, June 1995. I've never regretted.
That's
being
interesting.
baptized.
Okay, so we'll come back and talk some more on what your experiences have been after your baptism. And that's where we will be taking a break. Don't go away, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Damascus Encounter. And we have been sharing with Collins Onuoha, who has been telling his very, very interesting story of his conversion experience from priesthood to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. And so, Collins, you want to share with us a little bit. After baptism, you came to the Adventist Seminary of West Africa.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit about your experience?
Yes, thank you. Immediately after my baptism, while I was interacting with members at Maryland headquarters then, people told me, because of my curiosity, that people now said, oh, we have a school, if you still want to know more. Because they found my question very probing, and they felt that this kind of person will appreciate our institution. So it was Pastor, one of the pastors then at the church, the local church there. It was a headquarters and also a local church. It was the one that introduced me, gave me the leaflet about ASWA, and I went through it, and they directed me, and I decided. I've never been to this part of the world before, as at that time, and I had to come when I was given the direction. and I was told about the fees and all of that. I just got accommodation, was not too long in Lagos then. I was trying to build up as a guy, struggling to
live your life.
Live my life in Lagos. And then this one came up, and I was asking, this is a strange church. My people don't know about it. How am I going to convince them to support me financially? So something told me to recover the balance of, I paid for 3 years, I remember, that whatever amount I still remaining, I should recover it, or I should get someone to pay for it, and then sell whatever things I can sell and use that amount. And I calculated the money that I got from what I sold and the balance of the rent could take me for 5 semesters, for 5 quarters then.
5 quarters.
So I said, by the time this one will finish, by the time 5 quarters will finish, I'll just depend on faith.
God would have done
that
something.
God would have done something. So I came by faith. I didn't have that assurance of thousands with me that will see me through the education. So the journey right from the beginning has been it was a journey of faith. It was like a leap into the dark. Getting into a church you are not born into. My mother was not born, my father was not born. None of my relations, was born into it. Even immediate environment.
Yeah, you had no relative, you had no one, so at some point you got this experience of having been very low on cash.
Yes, sure.
You weren't able to pay your fees.
I was not.
So you want to share that experience and what you did?
Yes, like I said, I knew right from the beginning that I was going to run into that problem because I was not going to get any help from anybody. So if I'm to prevent people from putting pressure on me to change direction, that I have decided to follow this new faith, then I need to keep them away. I don't need to make myself cheap before them and start asking them for money. They will say, why can't your new church take care of you? So I didn't want them to spite me or to spite the new faith I have. I wanted to nurture it up to a point. So I depended on myself, and when I came, I was doing work study. Most of the parts that was existing on campus, then I swept them. I did all kinds of, I did work in cafeteria in order to support myself. So by the time, at the end of the 5 quarters, as I estimated, I ran out of money. And it appears that the whole pathway was bleak, dark. I couldn't see, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. And I couldn't imagine myself leaving, the place. But I left all the same because I had no choice. No one could pay for me. So I had to go back to Lagos. When I got to Lagos, I was directed to a place called LMS, Literature, the Literature Ministry headquarters of the church. So I stayed there and saw other people, and we started interacting, started taking books. We got some education, some orientation about how to sell books and use it to make your money. It sounded strange, so strange. I never had it before, that one could pay his school fees by selling literature. So I started and I joined others, and I was doing it. I didn't quite get my school fees from it at the end of the day. I spent almost 2 sessions away. And one of the challenges I had was, meeting the same people I was relating with in Lagos as at that time before I left. Meeting them was tough. It was that's one of the most difficult time after I became an Adventist, to see people or to go to them to ask for help after I abandoned them, after I told them I've seen a better pathway to life. So it was tough getting to them or seeing them or letting them know. So it was not easy. But at a point, I got a scholarship to come back to Aswa to continue my studies. And thereafter, after that scholarship, whenever I went back to Lagos, those same people that derided me, those same people that challenged me, they started inviting me to pray for them. They started inviting me to encourage them. They started experiencing joy and happiness at seeing me. And I don't know what happened, but I believe there was a miracle. God miraculously transformed my life. And when they saw me, and especially after I graduated eventually, because they didn't hear from me again, They didn't see me moving about. For the first time when I was in Lagos all my life, a shirt and trouser got torn on my body. I was wearing clothes that was old. I was wearing
same clothes over.
I used to see
again.
it. Yes, I used to see it on the body of other people. I never experienced it, but it was within that period that clothes got torn on my body as I'm wearing it. I don't usually do that. I don't use clothes for a very long time before I give them out to someone and get new one. And so up to that time, things were going well for me. But by the time I joined the church, it was tough. Things became tough. And in the midst of that toughness, God also turned things around at a point.
Good, beautiful. So after this, you came back. So the whole seminary thing was done. You graduated.
Yes.
And so today, are you working as a pastor? You studied theology.
Yes, I studied theology. I'm not really working as a pastor. I graduated in 2001. But you remember something happened here, around here in 1999. There was a transition from Andrew's program to Babcock University program. I was at the peak of it. I was on ground here. Okay. So I was one of those that pioneered that transition in any way possible, in terms of student management, in terms of student orientation, in terms of student guidance, in terms of organizing, planning, executing that transition. Okay. I wasn't at the heart of the administration, but I played a key role. I was like the bridge as far as educating students. Many of the students, all the students that came, didn't know anything about our lifestyle. They didn't know anything about our values.
Okay, because a lot of them were non-Seventh-day
Exactly.
Adventists.
Yeah. So I couldn't go for pastoral work immediately because of that challenge, that responsibility. And I took that responsibility. But while also carrying out that responsibility, there was ministry, pastoral ministry that was involved in working with young people, praying with them, counseling them, encouraging them. Okay. So I saw it also as a field to exhibit, to minister, and that's what that's how it has been. And I've been involved in church work. I was a team. I've always been a team player here. I work with the cafeteria. I work with the pastoral, team. I worked any team at all, because at that time we didn't have too many hands as we have right now. So very few of us were around. As a matter of fact, some of our colleagues who schooled here, at a point they had to challenge me and say, "Why are you still there? What are you doing? You need to come out, in the world." But I said, there is work to be done here, and people need to do it.
And you're still doing the job today?
Yeah, and I'm still doing the job today.
And you enjoy doing it?
Yes, I'm enjoying doing it. And I've had a lot of pastoral roles, and I'm still playing it. There is a worship center. We have worship centers. So I'm an assistant pastor for a particular worship center, and I've been playing that role for a long time. Previously, we mixed it up. Whenever there is a demand to play a pastoral role, I'll get involved. As there are preaching assignments, I have preaching assignments, Sabbath school, and all of that. Okay. I'm involved in all of that. So as I speak now, I'm part of the pastoral team.
Okay. And so afterwards, you took a little bit of leap trying to further your education. Do you want to share a little bit about that? What you're doing?
One of the things I have enjoyed since I became an Adventist is the opportunity to study. Okay. And that's aligned with my background. Where I'm coming from, education is highly valued. Yes, and so I found out that while here, you don't have to be static. You have to, study. So after my bachelor's here, of course, my bachelor's was a business, theology major and a business minor. So I felt it'd be nice to add a little value to the minor dimension. So I went to do an MBA at Olabisi Onabanjo University right there. Okay. And then since then I've also done an MSc in marketing at the University of Lagos. Okay. And that is to prove that what we are doing here then and now is of value. Okay. If I could be accepted in those, especially University of Lagos. So I did that, and I believe I performed well. Okay.
And right now?
And right now, I'm doing MPhil in marketing.
Here at Babcock University?
Yes.
Oh, very interesting. Your story has been a very interesting one. It's an interesting journey, and I tell you, it intrigues me all the time. It's such a joy to see you do the thing that you are doing, and it's a pleasure having you on the program today.
Amen.
Dear viewer, it's been an interesting journey with Collins Onuoha, sharing on the Damascus encounter, how God stepped in and his journey took a roundabout turn from priesthood in the Catholic Church to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Perhaps you have a story and you would like to encourage others about what God has done for you, how Jesus stepped in and changed the track and course of your journey. We'd like to have you on the program as we thank you for being a part of the show today. Hoping to see you next time. I say God bless you and keep tracking on the path to Damascus.